So today we'll be talking about body posture. Why is it so important to have proper posture while cutting hair? So, I notice some barbers slouching when they're cutting hair, having strains on their neck, the back, those areas are very common areas where barbers do have issues if they're not standing properly. Their knees aren't slightly bent and having like a nice grounded position while cutting hair. You always want to use the chair where you could position yourself at the right eye level position so that the client's not too low where you're slouching or the client's not too high where you're like looking straight up. So always try to find that balance. So with Dre, for example, if I'm cutting his hair into the fringe, what I really want to do is try to get eye level with Dre. So cutting the fringe area, I would like to bring up the chair higher. So that way, as I turn him and I'm looking him straight on, as I'm cutting the fringe area, I have a good position where my back is straight and my legs are nice and firm to the ground. And I'm just using the scissors and I'm not doing too much work where I'm like lifting my hands up too high or lifting it too low. So back's always straight, posture up and just feel comfortable. Don't put too much pressure onto your lower back and don't make it harder for you while cutting hair. So some barbers have discomfort in certain areas as they're standing. For example, for myself, over the many years of cutting hair, I started leaning. I always actually leaned on my left leg. So all that pressure into my left leg while cutting hair led me to have a lot of tightness around my left side of my hip, all the way that shoots down to my left side of my feet, right? So that issue right there brought me a lot of tightness where I had to go to physio and I had to actually open that area up so that I could get that fixed and I could feel more loosely while cutting hair. So what you want to do is you actually want to feel balanced. So you're very balanced with both legs. So your stance should be squared, shoulder width, and your knees always slightly bent. Keeping your knees straight up is going to be very, very tedious because it's going to shoot a lot of pressure on your lower back. If you stay grounded, shoulder width, and you keep your knees bent, you feel more balanced, right? The more you flare up your elbows and you rise up, you're going to have a lot of issues with your shoulders and your traps and your neck. Everything just connects all in one. So you want to avoid these issues. So keep it very tight. Keep very squared in the area that you want to work with. So if I'm working on Dre's parietal ridge, which is the side of the head, I'm keeping squared and I'm focusing just straight on that area. Always use the chair. Move the chair around so it makes it easier for you instead of you walking around. This is a lot more work moving around. Make the chair do the job. There's a reason why the barber chair does rotate and you could go and bring it higher or lower. There's hydraulics. That's what the barber chair is for. It makes it a lot easier as a barber and it brings comfort for the client, for you guys both to work hand to hand. So pretend Dre's head was going straight forward and now I can't see the back of his head. There's a big shadow. And then barbers, make that mistake of just like going down and just trying to get in and they're just trying to position themselves in a position that's very uncomfortable where their back is hunched and then they're trying to fade. There's so many different styles and different types of barbers that cut hair. I've seen it all. There's barbers that lean against something and just try to fade. There's barbers that kind of just use one hand and they fade like this. There's so many different positions. But to last long in barbering, you want to make sure that you're comfortable and you're just keeping squared at all times. What you don't want to do is having your tools really low. So as you're bending, you're always reaching out. Spending full days at the shop and always having to reach low for your tools is going to be an issue over time. That's going to give you a lot of back problems, including your lower back. So you want to have your tools easy to grab. So here we could just pick up the tool right away from the table and get into fading. So what you don't want to do with clipper over comb is rising your elbows high where you're flaring them up and you're trying to go do a clipper over comb. This will leave a lot of tightness around your traps and shoulders and your upper back, and it's going to shoot right into your neck. I've even heard some barbers get headaches from doing this over and over, complaining that being on the floor for hours and hours you're gonna have headaches. And it does happen because you're flaring your elbows and you're doing it consistently for like 12 hours a day. You don't want that. So what you do wanna do is you wanna keep your elbows tight and squared and keep everything really close to your body, right? Keep it really close. You can even turn the chair to make it even easier. Clipper over comb, keep it nice and tight, right? You wanna make sure that it's as easy as possible while cutting hair. So what you don't wanna do while straight razoring is coming like this, tilting the head back where the client has no head, or neck support, and coming over top with a straight blade. And I've seen this with barbers, and they're trying to like just get over top, right? You can't even see anything. It's so uncomfortable. You're like having to tiptoe, or the client's way too low, and you're pulling the client's head back. That's super uncomfortable, and it's not comfortable for yourself, right? So what you do want to do, and that's why you have the Barber headrest, where you place it and attach it into the barber chair. You get it to a good comfortable height for the client. Just sit forward a little bit, and then I'm going to ask the client to slowly tilt his head back, and I ask him, are you comfortable?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So now we have a perfect easy position where we could straight razor from the top of the head if we need to, and if we're getting to the side as well. So while lining up the beard or any type of lineup around, under the beard or over the top of the beard, I've noticed some barbers, they try to do target practice where they're just like stretching their arms out, and trying to kind of nail and draw the beard, right? This is very tough and hard to position your body because you're always like slouching and you're like trying to really get in there and you're moving around, right? It's very uncomfortable. So to make it a lot easier, you could actually, again, put the headrest. You could pump the chair up higher. So I'm a little bit taller, so I need the chair nice and high so that I could see under the beard if that's where I'm going to be lining up. And I could keep him right there. And just by his head being as comfortable as it is, laying back, you could just see everything directly on, right? And if you're having trouble and you can't reach from here, then what you could do, you could move the chair up again, make him straight, and keep the chair a little bit slouched, and you could just ask him, tilt his head back, and then you're a lot closer here so that his legs aren't shooting up where it's blocking you from coming down the center, right? So boom, 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 rather than doing this, right? Very uncomfortable. The closer you are while trimming the beard, the easier the job is going to be.